So I just thought we'd do a little follow-up on our sparkling wine that we shot last week. So you can see, here it is. It's already starting to settle out, you know. You can see all the sediment along the bottom of the bottle there. We're getting some nice clarity. It's much less hazy than it was when it went into bottle. This is because the yeast is starting to settle out and get a little less active as the fermentation in the bottle is coming along. You know, we keep it in here, we keep it pretty cold. We want fermentation to go very gradually. You know, this is a secret trick to getting those nice tiny bubbles you see in champagne. We don't want, you know, big bubbles. They just don't have that same beautiful look. And when we're making a traditional champagne style wine from hand or by hand, you know, we want to get everything just perfect, right? So I know a lot of people have questions about, you know, maybe the filler wine that we're adding and adding sugar, and I just like to cover, you know, this is a process the French call dosage, where we basically will sacrifice a couple of these bottles, you know, dump them into, say, like just something simple like a pitcher, and then we'll add some sugar to that. And this is how we balance the wine. This is done in basically any brut champagne. It's a pretty standard practice. Sparkling wine tends to have nice bright acidity, and when you introduce CO2 into the beverage, you get what's called carbonic acid, which adds to some bitterness, adds that acidity, and can even cause a bit of astringency in the wine. And so in order to balance that, we need to add a bit of sugar. So even a dry champagne typically has some residual sugar just to help offset some of that bitterness that comes with the high levels of carbonation in a sparkling wine like this. We add sugar just before bottling, and this is just to give the yeast something to eat so that they can, you know, convert it into CO2. It adds a small amount of alcohol as well, but you know, without it, we wouldn't have the bubbles, and it's just part of the winemaking process. We do make a wine where we don't add any sugar. This is a wine called a pet nat, or pétillant naturel, which is a French term for a naturally sparkling wine. And this is one where it goes through primary fermentation, and right when it gets to the right sugar level, we bottle it, you know, the natural sugar that's in the grapes. And this takes a lot of like patience, a lot of like measuring sugar, chilling the fermentation down so it happens very slowly, and we can catch it right at the right moment, and we bottle it. And this is a really fun wine. It makes wines of incredible character, but when you want a more refined, very elegant, very clean, sparkling wine, Méthode Champenoise is really the way to go as far as I'm concerned, and you can't do that without a little sugar added. So anyways, hope you'll accept the reality that there's some sugar in champagne. It is cane sugar that's used most commonly. You can use it's like a beetroot sugar that's also used fairly commonly. We're really just trying to give the yeast something to convert into CO2. And so really the type of sugar is not really relevant because it's not remaining, in this case, in the wine all the time, right? We just need to add, you know, 20 grams per liter of sugar so that the yeast can, you know, convert that into, you know, 6-7 atmospheres of pressure, and that's really what we're shooting for. And so it's not important to use some, you know, like honey or special unprocessed sugar, because it ends up not being a large component in the wine in the end anyhow. And geez, there's so many options for dosage. That's the back sweetening part that happens after disgorgement. You know, there's French champagnes that sometimes will add a bit of cognac with their sugar and wine that they're adding back. We typically just add a bit of, you know, this sparkling wine with a small amount of sugar, like I said, just to balance that bitterness. But total normal practice. Like I said, if you've had a brut champagne, then you've had a wine that has had sugar added to it. It's just how it is. These wines now are just gonna sit here in what's called tirage. Part of the reason we leave them on their side like this is because we're trying to maximize the surface area this leaves. The sediment that's in here, this is why we don't filter prior to bottling or force carbonate. We want this sediment because it imparts flavor on the wine, right? This has a yeasty flavor that can show up as like maybe amaretto or like brioche bun or puff pastry. That is a really elegant kind of aspect and really important in a traditional style like Méthode Champenoise. They can sit in tirage for as long as 5 years plus, even longer in some cases. Once we decide they're ready, we will riddle, which is the process of getting the sediment from the side of the bottle here down to the cap, so that it can be disgorged, that process of freezing and ejecting the slug. So we will get to that. It takes a few months. This is gonna be pretty early to market sparkling. We're looking at May for disgorgement, so you'll just have to sit tight and be patient. The wine's not ready yet, you know. That's one of the downsides to winemaking, is we're always working, you know, 6 2 months to a year to 2 years ahead of ourselves. And as much as I would like to do this right now, it's simply not the right time.